The text came through at 5:47 the morning. I was already up, standing on the back porch of my place outside Asheville, holding a cup of coffee I had not yet tasted. I am not much of a sleeper anymore. Have not been since the divorce, which is 8 years ago now, long enough that the pain has settled into something quieter, more like a permanent bruise than an open wound. The text was from my ex-wife, Carol. 4 words. Call me. It's Ryan. My son. Those 2 words landed somewhere in my chest and did not move. Ryan was 14. The last time I had seen him in person, he was 6 years old, standing on the front lawn of the house I used to own in Hendersonville, watching my truck back out of the driveway with everything I had left in the world loaded into the bed. He had waved. I still see that wave sometimes when I close my eyes. I called her back before I had finished reading the message. She picked up on the first ring. Fletcher? She started. My name is Thomas, Tom to everyone who knows me, but she had always called me Fletcher, a nickname from when we first met that she never let go of even after everything went bad between us. She was the only person left on earth who used it. I had asked her to stop 100 times. Carol. What happened to Ryan? Her voice was wrong, stripped of the sharpness she had used as a weapon against me for years. What I heard instead was something raw and tired. He was diagnosed 2 weeks ago. Aplastic anemia, severe. His bone marrow has basically stopped producing blood cells. The doctors say he needs a transplant. They've been testing the family. Her parents. Her brother. Nobody is a close enough match. She paused. I thought maybe you, as his father. You might be the best chance he has. I'll be there today, I said. Tell me which hospital. The drive from Asheville to Greenville took just under 2 hours. I pushed hard through the mountain roads, then south into South Carolina as the sun came up behind the clouds. I am 63 years old, retired from 22 years as a firefighter, and I have responded to a lot of emergencies in my life. Nothing felt like this one. Nothing in 2 decades of fires and accidents and terrible things happening to strangers came close to the weight of driving toward a sick child who had once called me Daddy. I had not been a part of Ryan's life since he was 6. That was not by my choosing. The divorce was Carol's idea, and Carol's lawyers had made sure the outcome went her way. I was awarded visitation every other weekend, every other Christmas, 2 weeks in the summer. Standard language in a document that meant nothing once Carol decided to ignore it. She moved the kids from Hendersonville to Greenville 6 weeks after the paperwork was final. She enrolled them in new schools, got them new phones, established a new normal that did not include me. When I showed up for my first visitation, no one answered the door. When I called her lawyer, I was told Carol had filed concerns about my emotional stability following the separation. I had no emotional problems. I had a broken heart. Those are not the same thing, though family court does not always see the difference. The legal battle lasted a year and cost me everything I had saved. In the end, the judge ruled that supervised visitation would be reinstated pending a psychological evaluation. I completed the evaluation. I was cleared. By the time all of that was settled, Ryan was almost 8, and Lily, my daughter, had just turned 5. They had been without me for nearly 2 years by then. They did not know me anymore. Ryan looked at me in the courthouse hallway like I was a stranger. Lily hid behind Carol's leg. I tried. I want to be clear about that. I drove to Greenville every other weekend for 8 months. I sat in a supervised room with a social worker present while I tried to rebuild something with children who had been told, quietly and consistently, that I was the reason their family had broken apart. Ryan was polite the way children are polite to adults they have been coached to be careful around. Lily barely spoke. Carol filed another modification. This time she claimed the visitation was causing the children emotional distress. The court agreed to a temporary suspension pending further review. The further review never came. I stopped receiving court dates. My lawyer, who I could no longer afford anyway, told me these things sometimes take years to sort out. Ryan turned 9 without me, then 10, then 14. The hospital was a large regional medical center in downtown Greenville. I found the pediatric hematology floor on the third level and gave my name at the desk. The nurse asked me to wait. I waited 11 minutes, which I counted because I had nothing else to do with my hands. Carol came through the double doors at the end of the corridor. 8 years had changed her in ways I had expected, and some I had not. She was thinner. Her hair was different. The energy that had once made her the center of every room she entered had quieted into something more carefully maintained, like a controlled burn. She stopped a few feet away from me and looked at my face, the way you look at something that might still hurt you if you touch it. "Tom, thank you for coming. How is he?" "Not good. He's been inpatient for 10 days. The transfusions are keeping his numbers stable, but it's not a long-term solution." She folded her arms across her chest. "The transplant is his best option. Maybe his only option." "Where is he?" "Room 318. He's awake." She hesitated. "He asked if you were coming." That landed hard. I kept my face still. "Where's Lily?" "With my mother. She wanted to come, but I thought it would be a lot." "Yeah." We looked at each other across 8 years of silence. "The testing," Carol said. "They need to do it today if possible. The hematology team is waiting for you. Lead the way." The hematology team was 2 doctors and a nurse. They explained the compatibility testing process with the efficiency of people who do it daily. Blood draw, tissue typing, HLA matching. Results within a few hours. Dr. Parisa Mehta, the lead physician, a composed woman with silver-streaked hair and reading glasses pushed up on her forehead, walked me through what they were looking for and what a match would mean for Ryan's treatment. She answered every question I had. She treated me like a person, which I was grateful for in a way I could not have explained. I asked if I could see Ryan before the test. Dr. Mehta said, of course. He was smaller than I had imagined. I had built him up in my mind over 8 years the way you build things up when you can only see them in photographs. The boy in room 318 was pale and thin, with dark circles under his eyes and an IV line running into his left arm. But his face, the shape of it, the jaw, and the brow, those were familiar in a way that went straight past my eyes and into something older than memory. He looked up when I walked in, and I watched him figure out who I was. "Dad? Hey, Ryan." I moved to the chair beside his bed. "How are you feeling?" "Tired, mostly." He studied me with the directness that children sometimes have and adults usually lose. "You look like your pictures." "What pictures?" "Mom has some. In a box. She got them out after I got sick." He paused. "She said she thought I should know what you looked like in case." He did not finish the sentence. "I'm here now," I said. "That's what matters." He nodded slowly. "Are you going to be a match?" "I don't know yet, but I wanted to try." He was quiet for a moment. There was something careful in him, like a kid who had learned young not to want things too loudly in case they did not come. "I'm sorry I wasn't around," I said. "I want you to know I tried to be. Whatever your mom told you about that, I need you to know I tried." He looked at the IV in his arm. "I know," he said quietly. "I kind of figured." I stayed with him for 20 minutes before the nurse came to take me down for the blood draw. On my way out, I passed Carol in the hallway. She was staring at her phone, but she was not reading anything on it. I could tell by the way her eyes were not moving. I went down to the lab and gave them everything they needed. 3 hours later, Dr. Mehta asked me to come with her. She did not take me back to the floor. She led me to a conference room on the 2nd level. Inside were 2 additional people I had not seen before. A man in his 50s, with a careful expression. A woman in a white coat holding a tablet. Dr. Mehta introduced them. Dr. Clifford Rains, their head of transplant immunology. Dr. Susan Farwell, a genetic counselor on staff. A genetic counselor. I did not know why that would be necessary. "Please sit down," Dr. Mehta said. I sat. Something had already started tightening in my chest. "Mr. Garrett," Dr. Mehta began. "We ran your HLA panel twice. The results were consistent both times." She set a folder on the table. "I need you to prepare yourself for what I'm about to tell you. The compatibility testing shows no biological relationship between you and Ryan. I heard the words. I did not understand them. That's not possible. He's my son. Dr. Raines leaned forward slightly. We understand. This is not what you expected to hear. But the genetic markers are clear. You and Ryan do not share a parent-child DNA relationship. I sat back. He's 14 years old. I was at the hospital when he was born. I cut the cord. Dr. Farwell spoke carefully. The tissue typing we use for transplant matching is highly specific. When the results showed no compatibility pathway between you, we ran a secondary genetic panel. It confirmed the same result. Biologically, you are not Ryan's father. The room was very quiet. I could hear the ventilation system in the ceiling. Then who is? That would require testing other individuals. Dr. Mehta's voice was steady, but not unkind. Mr. Garrett, I want you to understand that we see situations like this more often than you might expect. The science is simply accurate. What happened between you and your ex-wife is not something we can speak to, but you deserve to know the truth. What about Lily? I asked. Dr. Farwell glanced at the others. We only tested you against Ryan's profile. If you wanted to know about your daughter, that would be a separate test. You're telling me there's a chance. I'm telling you that if there were irregularities with one child, the possibility exists with siblings. I want to be honest with you rather than reassure you falsely. I put both hands flat on the table. I focused on the texture of the wood grain under my palms. I breathed. Thank you, I said. I'd like a few minutes. Of course. They left the file on the table and filed out quietly. I sat in that room for a long time. Long enough for the light coming through the single window to shift and go gray. I did not cry right away. What I felt first was not sadness. It was something closer to the way a building feels in the seconds after the load-bearing wall fails, before the collapse. A kind of terrible suspended stillness while everything that was standing tries to figure out which direction to fall. 14 years. I had loved that boy for 14 years. I had loved him before I even met him, through all 9 months of Carol's pregnancy, in that way that fathers do before they have any real information about the person they are waiting for. I had named him. Ryan Thomas Garrett, Thomas being my name, a thing I had wanted to pass on. I had been there when he came into the world, had held him at 2 hours old, had memorized the weight of him and the sound of him and the particular way he smelled. And none of it, according to a folder sitting on a table in front of me, was biologically real. But all of it had happened. I had lived it. He had lived it with me, however briefly. Whatever science said about our DNA, it could not reach back and undo a single moment of those first 6 years. I sat with that until I could stand up again. Then I went to find Carol. She was in the family lounge at the end of the hall. She saw my face when I walked in, and she knew. I watched the knowledge move through her the way a current moves through water. Her shoulders went down, her chin came up. That old defensive posture I had learned to recognize in the last year of our marriage. How long have you known? I said. She did not try to deny it, not even for a moment. That told me something. I had my suspicions, she said. After the divorce. After you left. After I left. She closed her eyes. After things ended, I was trying to do the math and... She stopped. I tried not to think about it. You had a DNA test done. No. You suspected and you chose not to know. Tom, how could you do that? I kept my voice level. 8 years. Carol, 8 years of telling those kids I walked away from them. 8 years of keeping me out of Ryan's life. And the whole time, there was a chance. She pressed her hands together in her lap. I was protecting them. From what? From their father? The man who actually raised them? From confusion. From disruption. Her voice broke slightly. Ryan was already so attached to you. If I had found out the truth early on, it would have destroyed him. So instead, you destroyed me, and him, and our daughter. And now Ryan is sick and there's nobody who can help him because the man who might actually be his father has no idea he exists. Her face crumpled. I know. Who is he? She was quiet for a long moment. "There was a man," she said finally, "from my office. This was before Ryan was born. We were going through a hard time. You were working 70-hour weeks and I was lonely, and it was twice, that was all. Twice was enough. His name is Bradley Connors. He lives in Columbia. He's a regional sales manager for some company. Married. Kids. Does he know?" "No." She shook her head. "I was too afraid to tell him. And then you were so excited about the pregnancy and I convinced myself it was yours and I buried it." "You need to find him today," I said. I stood up. "Today, Carol, Ryan is running out of time and the only person who might be able to help him is a man who doesn't know his son exists. You need to call him right now." "And Lily?" she said quietly. I stopped. "Lily is different," she said. "The timing with Lily, I'm almost certain she's yours. I need you to believe that. Almost certain is not the same as certain." She had nothing to say to that. I walked out of the lounge. I made it to the stairwell before I had to stop. I sat on the cold concrete steps between the second and third floors and put my face in my hands. I did not make any noise. In 22 years as a firefighter, I learned how to fall apart quietly and efficiently, how to give the grief its moment and then put it somewhere functional and keep moving. I did that now. I gave it 10 minutes. Then I got up and went back to Ryan's room. He was sleeping. I sat in the chair beside his bed and watched him breathe for a while. He looked younger when he was asleep, less guarded. I thought about all the nights I had not been there to watch him sleep, all the fevers I had not sat through, all the bad dreams I had not been around to talk him down from. 8 years of a child's life that I had missed because of a lie and a divorce and a judge who had believed the wrong person. Biology had not given me this boy. But I had been his father anyway, and somewhere in him apparently he had held on to that. He asked for my pictures. He asked if I was coming. That could not be undone by a genetic panel. It took Carol 2 days to reach Bradley Connors. I do not know what that conversation sounded like. I only know what Carol told me afterward, standing in the hospital parking garage, her face pale and her hands moving in the way they always did when she was trying to hold herself together. "He was angry at first," she said. "Then quiet. Then he said he needed a day to talk to his wife. He's married." "Yes." She hesitated. "He said he would come. He said if there was a chance he could help the boy, he would come." He showed up the next morning. Bradley Connors was a broad-shouldered man in his early 50s, wearing a pressed, button-down shirt and an expression that sat somewhere between determination and guilt. He walked into the hospital like a man who had made a decision and was not going to unmake it, which I respected even though I had no desire to respect him. We did not speak. I was in the hallway when he arrived. He looked at me once, quickly, and then away. Carol introduced him to Dr. Mehta and walked him toward the testing lab. I went and sat with Ryan. Ryan knew by then that I was not a biological match. Carol had told him the previous evening, gently, in some version that I was not present for. He did not bring it up when I came into the room. We watched a college basketball game on the small television and talked about nothing in particular, about the Tar Heels and whether they had a chance this year, about the mountains around Asheville, which he had visited once when he was 4 and barely remembered, about fishing, which I had always meant to teach him and never gotten the chance. After a while, he said, without looking away from the screen, "My mom told me about the test." "Yeah. She said you weren't a match." He was quiet. She didn't really explain why. I looked at him. He was still watching the game, but his jaw had gone tight in a way that was older than 14. "What do you want to know, Ryan?" He turned off the television. "Am I still your son?" The question hit me like a hand flat against the chest. "Yes," I said. "You are always my son. Whatever any test says, that does not change." He nodded slowly. "Then who's the man Mom brought in this morning?" "His name is Bradley. He might be a biological match for you." Ryan processed that. "He's my real father? He's a biological possibility. You and I are real. What we have is real. That man being related to you by DNA does not make him your father." He looked at me for a long time. I held eye contact. In my experience, children know when adults are telling them the truth and when they are managing them. I wanted him to know which one this was. "Okay," he said finally. That came out with a weight that meant something more than the word itself. The test results came back the next afternoon. Dr. Mehta gathered us, Bradley Connors included, in the same conference room where my world had come apart 48 hours earlier. "Mr. Connors," she said, "you are a strong match. High-resolution typing shows significant compatibility across the critical markers. With proper preparation, we believe a transplant from you could be highly effective." Bradley exhaled long and slow. He pressed his hand to his mouth for a moment. "Okay," he said. "Okay. When do we start?" Dr. Mehta walked him through the process. Donor evaluation, preparation protocol, timeline. He sat forward in his chair and listened carefully and asked intelligent questions. Whatever else he was, whatever wreckage was waiting for him back in Colombia, he was present in that room. I noticed that. I did not want to, but I did. I excused myself before the meeting was over. I was in the elevator going down when the doors opened on the second floor and Lily walked in. She was 11 years old. I knew her from photographs, from the supervised visits that had lasted 8 months before Carol ended them. She was taller than I expected. She had my mother's hair, which had surprised me when I first saw photos of her at around age 3, that particular shade of reddish-brown that ran through the women on my side of the family for generations. She looked at me. I looked at her. She had Carol's eyes, and something around the nose and chin that I saw in old photographs of my father. "Grandma dropped me off," she said. "She's parking the car." "Okay." She stepped into the elevator. We rode up one floor in silence. "You're my dad," she said as the doors opened. "Yeah." She walked out, then stopped and turned back before the doors could close. "Mom told me what the test said about Ryan." She looked directly at me with those green eyes that were Carol's, but set in a face that I now looked at differently, searching for familiar angles. "She told me you might not be my father either." She stopped. "But I think you are. I think I look like you." She paused once more. "And either way, you're the one who showed up today." The doors started to close. I held them open. "I would like to get to know you," I said, "if that's something you want." She considered this with the seriousness of a child who has learned not to decide things quickly. "I'll think about it," she said. She walked down the corridor toward Ryan's room and did not look back. I let the elevator doors close. I asked Dr. Farwell to run the paternity panel for Lily before I left the hospital that day. The result came back 36 hours later. She was mine. Biologically, legally, every way that science can measure, my daughter, whatever else Carol had done, whatever decisions she had made in whatever season of loneliness or recklessness, Lily was mine. Bradley Connors completed his donor evaluation and was cleared within a week. The transplant was scheduled for the following Friday. I drove back to Greenville that Thursday and found a room at a hotel near the hospital, the same one I had used the week before. There was a knock on my door at 9:30 in the evening. Ryan was standing in the hall in jeans and a hospital bracelet. He had a bag of chips and an expression that said he had thought carefully about coming here and decided to do it anyway. "How did you get out?" I asked. "I walked," he said. "I told the nurse I was going to the vending machines. You are not supposed to be out of bed." "I know." I let him in. He sat on the edge of the chair by the window, eating chips, looking out at the parking lot lights below. I sat on the bed. "Are you scared?" I asked. "Some," he said. "Not really about the surgery. More about after." "What do you mean?" He shrugged. "What happens after? With Bradley. He comes in and saves my life, and then what? I don't even know him. He has a whole family." He looked at his hands. "Mom keeps talking about how he might want to be involved. What do you want?" He was quiet for a while. "I want what I already had," he said. "Before all of this. Except with you actually in it. Ryan, I know you live in Asheville and we live here. I know it's complicated with Mom." He looked up. "But I'm going to be 15 in 4 months. In 3 years, I can make my own choices. I want you to know that when I can choose, I'm going to choose to know you. Not Bradley. You. I did not trust my voice for a moment. I've spent 8 years trying to get back to you and your sister, I said finally. I'm not going anywhere. Not now. Not when you turn 18. Not ever. He nodded. He ate another chip. Can I stay here for a while? He asked. Not long. Just, I don't want to be in that room alone. As long as you want, I said. He pulled his legs up onto the chair and stared out the window, and we sat there together, not saying much, while the parking lot lights hummed below us and the city went quiet around the hospital where tomorrow his life might start turning back toward something livable. The transplant went smoothly. Ryan came through it well. The doctors used words like encouraging and responding appropriately. By the 3rd day post-procedure, his counts were beginning to show signs of recovery. By the 2nd week, the trajectory was clearly positive. Dr. Meta used the word remission in a way that meant she expected it rather than hoped for it. Bradley Connors visited twice during Ryan's recovery. He was civil and attentive and clearly affected by the situation in ways he was still working out. He brought a card the first time and some books the second time, the kind of gifts a man brings when he does not yet know the person he is bringing them for. Ryan was polite. He thanked Bradley for the donation, sincerely and directly, in a way that showed both gratitude and clear-eyed distance. He called him by his first name. He called me Dad. Bradley caught that. I watched it register on his face. After the second visit, Bradley found me in the family lounge and we spoke for the first time without other people in the room. He's a good kid, Bradley said. He is. You raised him. He looked at his hands. For 6 years. I would have done it for 60 if your ex-wife had let me. He absorbed that without pushing back on it. I had some time to think on the drive up here, he said, about what I would want if the situation was reversed. I waited. I'm not going to push myself into his life, he said. If he wants to know me someday, I'll be available. But I'm not going to make this harder for anyone than it already is. He paused. I think you earned the right to be his father. I don't think I did. I did not know what I had expected him to say. It was not that. He left the next morning. Sent a card to Ryan 3 weeks later and has been sporadically in contact since, respectful of Ryan's lead in how much or how little he wants. Ryan appreciates the space. He is, as I have come to relearn, a boy who understands things more clearly than most adults give him credit for. The custody situation took 8 months to resolve properly. I hired a family law attorney out of Asheville, a woman named Patricia Dean who specialized in exactly these kinds of complicated cases. She reviewed 8 years of documentation, the visitation orders that were never enforced, the modification filings, the pattern of parental alienation. Your case is strong, she told me. The biological question complicates nothing legally because you were Ryan's presumptive father at birth and raised him accordingly. And given the parental alienation documentation and the boy's stated preferences, a judge will listen. Carol did not fight it. I think the year had taken everything she had left for fighting. She sat across from me at the mediation table and looked like a woman who had finally run out of things to protect. I'm sorry, she said at one point during a break. Not performatively, quietly. The way people are sorry when they have run out of reasons not to be. I know, I said. We worked out a schedule. Ryan and Lily spend every other week with me in Asheville. Summers, major holidays, rotating. It is not a perfect arrangement because no arrangement is. But it is real, and both kids have made it work with a grace that honestly makes me proud of them. Ryan is 15 now. He drives up to Asheville with Carol on exchange days and gets out of the car looking taller every time, like he grew 2 inches in the week I did not see him. He is still thin from the illness, still building back his stamina, but his eyes are clear and his appetite is back, and he argues with me about football with the energy of someone who expects to be around long enough for the argument to matter. Lily tested me differently. She came into the arrangement more carefully, holding back, watching. She is 11 years old, and she has already learned how people disappoint you, which is not a lesson anyone should have to learn that young. But she is also learning, slowly, to trust something different. She brought her math homework to my kitchen table last month and sat there for 2 hours while I tried to remember how to be useful in 6th grade algebra. We were both frustrated, and we were both laughing by the end of it. That was a good afternoon. The bone marrow results stayed clean through Ryan's 3-month and 6-month follow-ups. At his last oncology appointment, Dr. Mehta used the word excellent twice. I drove home from that appointment and sat in my driveway for a few minutes before going inside, just sitting there with the engine off, feeling something I could not name right away but eventually recognized as gratitude. My name is Thomas Garrett. I am 63 years old. I spent 22 years walking into burning buildings for a living, which might explain why I have never been particularly afraid of hard situations. I live alone in the foothills outside Asheville, in a house that has too much room for one person and just enough room for 2 kids every other week. I keep a photograph on the windowsill above my kitchen sink. It is from a Halloween when Ryan was 4. He is dressed as a firefighter, plastic helmet and everything, standing on the front porch with his arms out wide and a grin that takes up most of his face. I am crouching beside him, laughing at something he said. You can tell by the way I am looking at him that I was not thinking about anything else in the world in that moment. That photograph is 14 years old. The people in it are real. What they felt is real. No test result, no legal document, no genetic panel run by 3 doctors in a conference room can reach back through 14 years and unmake that moment. It happened. He was mine and I was his, and that is a fact that exists outside of biology. I spent 8 years believing I had lost my children. It turns out they were not lost. They were waiting. They were growing up and learning things, and figuring out what was true and what was not, and when the moment came, when the noise quieted, and they could finally hear themselves think, they knew where they wanted to be. That is what I keep coming back to. Blood will tell you where someone came from. It will not tell you who showed up. It will not tell you who stayed. So here is what I want to ask you. When everything you thought you knew gets taken away, what do you hold on to? What is the thing that survives when the lies get stripped out and all you have left is what actually happened? For me, the answer was simple. I held on to the boys. The boys I thought were both mine. The girl who turned out to be mine. The love that existed before I knew any of the science and that outlasted all of it. That love is not a small thing. That love cost me everything I had, twice over, and I would not trade a minute of it. Tell me what family means to you. Tell me your story in the comments below. If this reached something in you, hit that like button and share it with someone who needs to hear it today. I put out new stories every week, real people in impossible situations, and the places they find their footing. Subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss one. Thank you for being here all the way to the end. It means more than you know. I will see you in the next one.